Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey. And at the time of this recording, I know it's the heart of winter for y'all listening, but the clocks just went back the other night. I broke out a fall flannel. This is the first time it's ever been on video. So if you're listening, not watching, you might want to tune in to see my very fall colored flannel. I definitely look a lot more country than usual. And since I'm talking about what's going on, my background is a white and gray gradient rippling background to represent, if we could represent, silence. Being in the void of silence when you close your eyes and open your mind to just absolutely nothing. And we're going to be talking about the power of silence today, which is why I bring that up. Because as we'll get into, our guest will share with us in great detail, we live in probably the noisiest time period ever, where everyone has a noise making device on them, aka your cell phone, where there is social media, someone giving their opinion, telling a story, whatever it may be. We live in one of the busiest and loudest time periods that have ever existed. And so it can be very difficult and counterintuitive to society to embrace silence, to seek silence, and to grow from it. But we have a guest who's going to tell us how beneficial it is, especially in the world of faith, where we think we need to worship God loudly and yell out to Him so He can hear us. But as they say in church, the silent intentions of our heart, we offer them up. And so I'm excited for today's episode and to break the silence on his end, Mr. Rich Lewis. So glad to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself for us?
Sure. No, thanks for having me on. I'm Rich Lewis, and I guess I have a website called Silence Teaches. It's silenceteaches.com, and it started about almost 10 years ago at this point. I think about 9 years old. And really the purpose of the site, then I've let it evolve, but really is to share a practice called centering prayer that I've been doing for about 10 years at this point. Um, and it's I guess it's got some biblical context because Jesus went off alone to be by himself in silence. We surmise
Yeah,
he wasn't always talking. He was just sitting with God, silently sitting with God. So I have a website really devoted to centering prayer, which is a form of silent meditation that really has kind of healed me, transformed me. And I just like to share the practice with others in case it can do the same for them as it has done for me. So that's really what the website's all about and a lot of the work that I do.
for sure. So let's dive right into, you use the term silent prayer, and I'm sure everyone has some kind of version in their head of what that means. But tell us, for you, how that is implemented into your life, what that looks like, and how that is practiced.
Sure. So silent prayer, and there's many different ways to do it. So my way is called centering prayer. But if you think of silent prayer, you think of it as you're not talking, you're sitting with God, and you're opening to the presence and actions of God within you through your practice. So my practice is called centering prayer, and I guess I'll give a quick history of it and how you do it. If that might help just to share with people what
For sure.
how do you do this thing called silent prayer where I'm not talking. So centering prayer actually has been around. Well, the idea of sitting silently with God has been around for thousands of years, and it most
Right.
likely goes back to Jesus and even further further than Jesus in the
Yeah, for sure.
Old Testament, the idea of just sitting and being with God. So the practice is not, 50 years old, such as centering prayer has been around since the early 1970s. It was created by three Trappist monks or three Catholic priests saw the secular world have transcendental meditation and other forms of
Right.
meditation, and they wanted something for I guess, the Christian world. So they created centering prayer, and in particular, one of them, Father William Manager, was reading I think it's a 12th century classic book called The Cloud of Unknowing. And as he read it, kind of a form of silent, wordless prayer seemed to jump off the pages as he read it. And then he kind of
Mm.
created this practice. And then the other two priests together, they kind of refined the practice and began practicing it amongst themselves, amongst other clergy, and really amongst the public, because it's not meant just for clergy, priests, pastors to practice. It's meant for anybody. So
Right.
the practice I do, and I'll share how you do it, is about 50 years old. But as I said, the idea of sitting in silence is not 50 years old. It's thousands of years old.
Right.
This is just one way to sit in silence. So, and how you do centering prayer is you sit comfortably with your eyes closed, and then to begin your practice, interiorly, you think of a sacred word, and usually it's 2 or 3 syllables, and that kind of signify, and it could be a God, it could be Jesus, it could be a color, it could be beach. And actually, in my case, I actually picture an image. So instead of a word, I use a kind of an interior image of a Jesus icon that I stumbled across a couple of years ago.
Right.
So I picture this image in my head, and that signifies I'm taking the time to sit with God. And then as I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, when I begin engaging my thoughts, and what I mean by that is when I begin thinking about what I'm going to do after my sit and all the errands and all the things I have to do, or if I'm thinking about something that happened before my sit, I realize I'm no longer sitting with God, and the purpose of my sit, of opening to the presence and actions of God within. I'm really sitting with my thoughts and plans and plotting. I reintroduce the sacred image to let go of all my engaged thoughts and come back to the present moment and come back to God. And then I let go of the image. So you just use it when needed to keep returning. It's like you're constantly returning to God when you find that you're doing all your thinking and planning and reminiscing. And
Right.
I mean, it's as simple as that, but not as simple as that because our minds are always active and then
Yeah.
thinking things.
Yeah.
But that's essentially how you do centering prayer. You sit, kind of introduce that sacred word or sacred image to start. And then as you're sitting there, when you realize you're not sitting with God, you realize you're sitting with yourself, you use your image just to let go of your thoughts and engage thoughts. And then you let go of the sacred image as well. So it's just a constant return, I guess you could say a gentle clearing of the mind and return to God over and over again if you have to do it.
I totally agree with you that especially nowadays our minds are so distracted, wandering. I think a lot of people have concentration issues when it comes to even just prayer aloud, let alone in silence where your mind can really wander. And I've dabbled. I've had some guests who've had me meditate on the show, and it's like my mind starts wandering. And that's why I don't mind meditation. A lot of people get this view, a lot of faith based people get this view that meditation is evil and it's a doorway for demonic entities. But I believe that meditation can be a helpful practice for engaging in silent prayer. I think a lot of meditation practices can help you focus and center in on that. And I think it's good to have, like you said, that grounding image or, one thing kind of anchoring you and keeping you. So when you start to wander, you say, hey, I'm supposed to be talking to God right now.
Right.
And I think, like you said, we end up thinking too much. We kind of get in the way of his thinking and his plans. I think a lot of times I think a lot of times unintentionally, we get in God's way, unfortunately.
Right. And if you think about it, like so centering prayer you're letting go of your engaged thoughts and you're constantly letting go of things and opening to God and returning to God. And so if you do this type of practice and you do it daily and then weeks have passed and months have passed and years have passed, there's a lot happening. I mean, one I think of this is as a reverse prayer. God is praying in me during this time instead of me
Mm,
doing the
okay.
praying. I think of it as a reverse prayer, and God is giving me what He knows that I need, whether it's inner peace or calm or wisdom for a task that kind of eludes me. But it's my time to let God pray in me what I need, even just for that very day. So, but as I said, if you end up with a long-term practice, a ton ends up happening and you don't realize it. Every time you return to your sit, you're releasing tension, like you're naturally releasing tension in your body. And whether you hold it in your forehead or your shoulders or your stomach, you're constantly releasing tension that you maybe didn't even know you held. You're releasing thoughts because that's part of the process. And also, you're releasing repressed thoughts that you didn't even know you had until you began sitting there in silence. So you're like releasing physical and emotional baggage that you carry around with you and don't even realize it. So it's really
For
freeing, to
sure.
be honest with you. And you don't realize it until you practice this over the long haul, that you're kind of freeing yourself from tension and emotional baggage that you didn't really need to carry around with you. And I don't think God wants you to carry it around with you. And then what's left after all of that is gone is just you and God, and the person God wants you to be, because you're letting go in centering prayer, and you take the letting go gesture, if you will, with you outside of your practice, and you let go of who you are not and become who you are. So, and what I mean by that is that you let go of fear, worry, anxiety, lack of confidence. I'm too young to try that. I'm too old to try that. And you take action on the true self, the person God wants you to be. So that's what a lot happens with the long-term practices. You're continuously connecting to God, connecting to your true self, and then getting up from your silent sits and hopefully taking action on your true self, instead of letting this person be buried and never come out.
Right, and I think, firstly, ladies and gentlemen, they make noise canceling headphones nowadays. So if you need to use those, by all means, don't think to yourself, how will I hear God's voice if I'm wearing noise canceling headphones? It's not he defies that kind of stuff for sure. But what I was going to say is, Mr. Lewis, where do you practice this? I know some of us prefer maybe hiking to the top of a mountain and really getting into nature, or going to a beach on a quiet morning or evening and kind of just sitting there with toes in the sand, so to speak. But this is really something that can be done anywhere, and as you mentioned, the more you do it, the easier it will get to tune everything out, to kind of focus in our minds, because some of us don't have the opportunity to get into a quiet space. Some of us are moms with noisy kids and angry husbands, and we can't get a quiet space. So for those of us, like I said, we live in such a busy day and age now. I mean, where can we do this? How can we do this? I mean, we want to master the art of silence.
Sure. Um, one, I think, yes, I would want to be flexible with wherever you do it. So, like I have there's a separate room in our house, and I kind of go there in the morning, and I actually turn on like a white noise machine, and then I light a
Okay.
candle, and I light a candle. So I guess I found my own little escape. And my kids are a little bit older, so they're not. I don't have babies, but and we can talk about that too when you have younger kids. But so in my case, my kids are older, and they're not even up when I'm getting up to do this. So I'm in a separate room, and then I turn on a white noise machine to kind of block out outside noise anyhow.
Okay, yeah.
And I put on a candle, and so I do it in a separate room. But you can do it, as you said, anywhere. I haven't been to a chiropractor in a while because we moved from Pennsylvania to North Carolina. But when I lived in Pennsylvania, for example, once a month I went to a chiropractor, and I actually did it at the chiropractor because right before you saw the doctor, there was a room you lied in,
Right.
and there was like a rolling machine that kind of rolled underneath your back for about 10 minutes to loosen you up before the doctor would see you. So I did centering prayer at the chiropractor as well. It was an easy place for me to do centering prayer. But like you can do it at the beach, as you said. You could do it outside at a pool. Nobody knows that you're doing it. You can do it on an airplane. So I guess I urge people to be flexible with where you do it, because it really can be done anywhere. Now, if you have kids, obviously you might need to do some negotiating with your spouse or partner to
Yeah.
say, look, I need this special time. Can you watch them for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, or however long your routine is, and kind of negotiate something like that with your
Yeah,
spouse
for sure.
or friend, so that you have this quiet time. But yeah, if you have babies, you have to kind of do it around their schedule when they're sleeping, or negotiate with your wife or husband or partner.
Yeah. You actually reminded me of at Planet Fitness, not a sponsor. I pay them. They don't pay me actually. I pay them $25 a month, 24.99 to be exact. They have this I'm the highest level member you can be, and they have this special like hydro bed that you lie
All
down on, and
right.
it's got like the
Yeah.
rolling water massage. And every time I go, they put me in the corner in this dark room on the hydro massage bed with no one else there. I think that's gonna be my new
There you
silent
go.
prayer spot, because I've got the white noise of the water rolling. I got my body's nice and relaxed, eyes are closed. It's a dark room, and I'm just lying there. So that might be my spot. When you said the chiropractor with the back roller, that's I was like, yeah, I've got one of those too. Only it's not for hopefully not for my messed up spine yet. Maybe as I get older here, perhaps I'll go from Planet Fitness to the chiropractor and switch silent meditations and prayers. But yeah, so I mean, you talked about what this can open you up to, what it can free you from, and I'd like to get just a little personal here with what exactly in your life has been, benefited and helped from this, and how has your relationship with God changed over the years because of, your centering prayers.
Sure. So yeah, I've been practicing for about 10 years. So I'll start with relation with God, and then I'll then also talk about kind of what I'll call fruits of the practice, which really are fruits that God has graced me with, not I've received on my own. So in terms of my relationship with God, it helped me realize one that prior to centering prayer, God was kind of up in the sky looking down at me, maybe annoyed with me, maybe critiquing me. I wasn't quite sure.
Right.
But after kind of a 10-year practice, God has changed where God is no longer really just up in the sky looking at me. God is, within me as the Holy Spirit working within me. God is, kind of behind me, gently nudging me to move forward and explore and get out of my comfort zone. God is kind of walking next to me, holding my hand as a partner. So I think of it as I sit with God, but then I get up and partner with God during the day. So
Okay.
it's not I have my silent sit and then see you later, God. I'll see you
Right,
tomorrow.
right.
I'll see you tomorrow. God kind of comes with me as my partner. And I envision God as kind of ahead of me, kind of pulling me along, saying, "Let's go, Rich. You're taking a little bit too long on this." So God is definitely not just up looking at me from the sky. God is kind of all around me and within me, and God is really just a loving presence that really just loves me and wants to be my daily partner in life. So that's a lot of how God has changed for me as a result of my centering prayer practice. And then I'll mention, I guess, fruits of the practice. Prior to centering prayer, not that I didn't want to live life, and I was a happy person, but I think I'm much more excited for life and what's going to happen today, and what is God going to have me experience today. I'm a much more confident person in myself, and I'm doing things that weren't even on the radar screen. So prior to centering prayer, I didn't have a website called Silence Teaches, and
Right.
then I didn't, and I have a book that I published in middle of COVID, August of 2020, through a publisher that wasn't even on the radar. So I have a published book. I've been on about 100 and you're my 121st podcast, I believe, because I kind of keep track.
Nice.
That wasn't on the radar screen. I do a lot of speaking in front of small and large groups. Um, I've actually finished my second book, and I'll be probably giving it to the publisher by the end of the year. So a lot of these things were not on the radar screen. So just confidence to get out of my comfort zone and do things and share this practice in case it can help others, how it has helped me. So just a ton of confidence and excitement for life, a willingness to slow down and listen to God and then go. And I do some one-on-one coaching too with some folks. So as I said, like none of this was on the radar screen and now is now on the radar screen because of my center and prayer practice.
I feel like additionally it may help, and I'll have you testify to this, with patience and forgiveness. And would you suggest silent prayer if you're having a fight with your spouse or partner, a bad day at work or something? Would you say that this is a good way to kind of diffuse those emotions? At first, frustrating, right? Because you're sitting in silence and all you can think is, I'm so mad and I'm so upset about X, Y, Z. But would you say with time and practice, it's taught you a little bit about patience and forgiveness and self awareness and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely taught me to slow down and listen to people and just be present with people and then not be so quick to render an opinion. Just listen to what someone has to say and just be present with someone. Because a lot of times you're talking with someone that they don't want your opinion. They just want you to listen to them
Right.
and be sitting with them. So it's definitely taught me to slow down and just listen to my wife. My wife doesn't necessarily want my opinion. She just wants to know that I'm listening to her,
Right.
and
Right.
that kind of stuff. And it's taught me, definitely taught me patience, because I think of it as there's, you know, if I have an issue in my life, I have to decide, do I need to be patient and maybe it will resolve itself? Do I need to be patient because I'm not the right person to resolve this and someone else is better suited? Um, or do I need to take action? So it's taught me, like, to be patient and discern, am I, those, whether I'm the right person, whether I should take action, or whether I can just wait and sometimes the situation resolves itself on its own without any action. So yeah, the practice has definitely taught me to slow down and not be so quick to act, because sometimes you don't need to act right away with a situation, but as well with a person that doesn't really want you to react. They just want you to be there.
Right. So it's even improved your listening skills, which is important, especially for us men, but as well as everyone. But I would say, you talked about starting with 1 minute and then getting up to 3 or even 4 minutes, and it's not an easy journey. How long do you sit in silence now? Is it depending on the situation, or do you think the best practice is, hey, set up a schedule where every morning or every night or both you do this set amount of time and make it a habit, make it consistent to really focus and get your skills of silence, of listening better, and to spend more time with God?
I would say for someone brand new to the idea of doing this, I would
Right.
say, first I would say, try it for challenge yourself to try it for 30 days. And then I would say make it the first thing you do before you do anything. And then make it anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes. That way it's something that's doable and doesn't seem might seem
Yeah.
painful to go longer. So commit to 30 days, commit to doing it first thing in the morning before you do anything else, and then just try it for 1 to 5 minutes. And then at the end of the 30 days, kind of reflect, how did it go? Is this a practice that will resonate with me? And then if so, and you like it, then I would begin kind of increasing the silent sits, to 10 minutes and 20 minutes.
Right.
So some of my, yeah, my
Intimidating
sits,
numbers for some of those new people. 20 minutes of silence sounds
and then
sounds
even
intimidating, but
And then even once you have that down, you add a second sit. Like I actually sit twice a day. I sit in the morning, and then
right.
I begin my day, and then I have a second sit. Actually, it'll probably be a little bit after our podcast. I take a second sit because it kind of helps me finish the day just as strongly
Right.
as I started the day. So a lot of people will say,
Amen.
I don't have the time to do this, and actually, it has a way of giving you back time, but you have to kind of experience it for yourself, where it has definitely has a way of giving you back time rather than letting yourself finish the second half of the day rattled and shaken, when you really need to just slow down and
Right. Right.
reconnect with God, reconnect with life. But initially I would just take baby steps, 30 days, see if you like the practice and try it for 5 minutes. And if you like it, just slowly begin increasing the time frame to 10 minutes, and maybe if you can get it up to 20 minutes.
I agree that, this is such a great way to recenter and refocus yourself and slow down and get time back, because sometimes we're so frantic and so stressed and anxious that time just slips through our fingers. But when you refocus and slow down, you can use your time more wisely. But what I would also say, ladies and gentlemen, is we're not telling you to replace your current prayer style or completely change everything. This is something you could add in. You could do this before or after, your prayer aloud time, whatever it may be, wherever it is, and this could be something you do in the church. If you get there a few minutes early, you could always do it before or afterward. So by all means, don't think that you have to replace this is the ultimate prayer, right? We're just saying this is another form of communicating with God. And I know it doesn't seem like it because you're sitting in silence, but this is another way of being with our Lord and Savior, and you know focusing on Him while also benefiting ourselves. So And this could be something you do as a group as well. I mean, you could have your whole family do it where every morning y'all sit together in the living room, maybe in a circle, who knows, and you do it together. So by all means, don't think that this has to replace anything or be a solo journey. And I just want to say that to encourage anyone who may have been feeling like we're trying to, push this onto them. This is something that you can easily fit into your routine. And like you said, Mr. Lewis, people want to say, I don't have time for that. But they'll have time for social media, they'll have time for whatever it is. And this is something you could do for just a few minutes when you first wake up or before you go to bed. So, and who should really visit your website? You've talked a lot about your Silence Teaches website. I mean, could you go in a little more detail about what we can find there and who would benefit from that?
Sure, sure. So the website is silenceteaches.com. And then on the website, well, I guess if you subscribe, you'll get, I have a free centering prayer ebook for those that just want to learn more about what is this practice and how do you do it. It's an easy to read ebook with the kind of at the top is a question and it answers the question, and it's very easy to read. So for those that want to learn more about centering prayer and silent meditation, when they subscribe, they'll get my ebook, and then they'll receive, every Monday I have a post that mostly talks about centering prayer and connecting to God and connecting to your true self. They'll receive a weekly meditation, and then if they're more interested in centering prayer, my book is on the website as well. Sitting with God: A Journey to Your True Self Through Centering Prayer. They could check out my book if they want. And then I guess depending upon what they're looking for, like if they are at church and they have a group that meets and wants me to speak, I've attended a lot of Zoom phone calls or Zoom meetings with different church groups if they want to explore this idea of centering prayer with at maybe one of their faith classes that they have. So they could invite me to speak. Or teach this centering prayer via Zoom. Uh, and then for those that I do coaching. So for those that I guess I've coached three different types of people as I look back and reflect upon the three different groups of people that I have coached. One is people that are brand new to this idea and want someone to hold them accountable and help them begin a long-term sustainable practice that they don't think they would do on their own. I've coached people. I've coached kind of a second group of people where they already are practicing, but they feel like they're just skimming the surface and they need to go deeper in their practice, deeper into God, deeper into understanding who is their true self and what should I be doing? What kind of actions does God want me to take? I don't feel like I'm doing that. So I've coached people on that front. And then the third group, I've coached some clergy and either Catholic priests or Episcopal priests or even just pastors that say, I'm burning out. I'm working really hard on my congregation and
Right.
my flock, and I'm burning out. And I need, this is a practice that I know can help me so that I don't burn out. Because if I do this practice, it's going to kind of rejuvenate me, and I'm going to be better. I'm going to better serve my flock, so to speak. So when I look back at all the different coaching clients, they've kind of fallen into one of those three categories. So that's a little bit about, if they come to my site, I have the ebook. They can receive a weekly meditation. If they're interested in coaching, I'd be happy to explore that idea with them to see if we're a fit and it makes sense. Or if they're just a group that wants me to come speak, I've done that via Zoom on various instances.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, if that is you or someone you know, be sure to check out Silence Teaches, and we'll have that website link in the description below. And who doesn't like a free ebook? So be sure to subscribe to Mr. Lewis's website there. But Mr. Lewis, what I'd love for you to leave us with is a Bible quote for everyone, whether related to silence or not. Whether related to prayer or not. I'd love for you to leave us with one that you think will have a profound impact on us.
Sure. For me, I guess it's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's just kind of my go-to when I feel like I'm having a tough day or a tough something. I'm either in the midst of something that's really a struggle for me, or I know I'm going to possibly have an upcoming struggle. I will say that to myself. So I'm often saying that to myself in the car. So if people are looking at me, maybe they'll see me talking, and I am talking out loud, but I'm just kind of saying I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I'll say it loudly with power because I know that it's true, that it's if I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that's kind of a big go-to verse for me that I say very frequently.
Hey man, it's funny. I'm keeping track of all the Bible quotes shared on the show, and that is one that has been shared in a previous episode. So that's definitely a popular quote. And one of the things that's so great and so dangerous about the Bible is that everyone takes it a little bit differently. So it was great to hear your input on that, and I think that's an important thing, especially for those of you who are struggling to sit in silence. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, including getting through that another minute of silence. But yeah, Mr. Lewis, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this. I think it's something that is so obvious yet so overlooked. I think so many people get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life, in the I need to talk to God, I need to tell him this and that. And I think just like a lot of relationships here on earth, a lot of people end up always talking to God but never listening. And I think we need to give him a little room to work in our lives and a little silence to focus as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I highly encourage y'all to even right after you listen to this episode, if you can, not if you're driving, but if you're home or somewhere where you can just take a few minutes and spend in silence, I highly encourage y'all to try it out. But Mr. Lewis, again, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate having you.
Great. No, thanks for having me on. It was a whole lot of fun. So thank you.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride. Jokes and laughter fill the air, on this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of the ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.